Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards, with your host, Mel Blackmore.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continuous improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com. Hi and welcome back, Changemakers, to the ISO Show, the podcast that's dedicated to helping organisations elevate their impact and build a more sustainable future. This is the second part in a series on voluntary disclosures, and we're going to be talking today about EcoVadis. So I'm your host, Mel Blackmore, CEO and founder of Carbonology, and today we're diving deep into a topic that's becoming an absolute prerequisite for many businesses, particularly those operating within global supply chains, and that is EcoVadis. So in today's increasingly transparent world, simply saying that you're committed to sustainability isn't enough. It's just not cutting the mustard now. I think we're moving now beyond just making pledges and commitments and setting targets, although science-based targets are very, very good, send a strong message. It's the action and proof that stakeholders are looking for at the moment, whether that's from investors or customers, to regulators, and your own supply chain, they're all demanding greater proof of progress when it comes to sustainability. So what they're looking for is data. They want transparency and they want trust. And this is especially true for businesses that are selling into large corporations, where EcoVadis has become a crucial ESG rating scheme, which is often used in supply chains, especially with procurement teams, as a direct prerequisite to winning a contract or retaining a valuable client and contract. So it's truly a passport to trade in many sectors. So today, in terms of focusing on EcoVadis, we're going to be covering what it is, why it's in place, why it's so important for businesses, and how your organisation can aim for the very top by getting an EcoVadis Platinum rating. So different levels of rating, and the gold and then the platinum are at the top of the tree basically. They are the creme de la creme when it comes to the ESG ratings. So let's get started. First things first, what is EcoVadis? So EcoVadis is a globally recognised provider of business sustainability ratings. They assess companies' environmental, social and ethical performance across 21 different indicators and 4 main themes. And those themes are environment, labour and human rights, ethics and sustainable procurement. So EcoVadis aims to help organisations manage their supply chain sustainability risks and opportunities. So many large corporations adopt EcoVadis and push this down the supply chain in order to help them to evaluate their suppliers' sustainability performance. So if you're a supplier, you've likely received a request from a customer to complete an EcoVadis assessment. So the assessment process involves completing a detailed questionnaire, submitting supporting evidence and information, and then EcoVadis analysts then review your submission and assign a scorecard. And this scorecard provides a detailed breakdown of your performance across the 4 themes and assigns an overall score and medal status. So that's bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And it's this medal status that's crucial, especially those coveted gold and platinum badges, which signal to your customers that you're a top-tier performer in sustainability. Now let's talk about the key requirements and what it takes to achieve platinum rating on EcoVadis. So while EcoVadis assesses across the 4 themes, the environment theme often carries significant weight. And within that, greenhouse gas emissions management is paramount for the higher ratings. To earn an EcoVadis Platinum rating, you generally need to achieve an overall score between 78 to 100 out of 100, so it's top marks. And this isn't just about good intentions, it's about robust management systems, having clear policies in place, concrete actions, which is something that many of you will be very familiar with if you're already managing environmental management systems like ISO 14001, which is fantastic, and you are asked about those standards, which obviously you can score points on that. But most importantly, for an EcoVadis Platinum rating, verified data is a key requirement. So here are the critical areas you need to excel at for an EcoVadis Platinum. Having a comprehensive environmental management system. So, policies, actions, how you report on environmental issues, both internally and externally. So EcoVadis is expecting to see a highly structured and systematic approach to environmental management. So if you've got ISO 14001 or ISO 50001, you're in a really great position here. Then secondly, having a robust greenhouse gas emissions management system. So this is where the rubber meets the road. You need to make sure that you've collated your emissions data and measured your emissions data. So accurately calculating your scopes 1, 2, and significant scope 3 emissions. So in recent years, EcoVadis have been placing an increased emphasis on scope 3, as obviously it often represents the largest portion of a company's footprint. So scopes 1 and 2 are generally quite easy to get because they're related to your direct emissions, but it's the scope 3, your supply chain, which is where it's more challenging. Hence why ESG rating schemes like EcoVadis have become more and more popular. Another thing is to set ambitious targets, and having really clear, smart targets in place and aligning them where possible with science-based targets is highly advantageous and quite often a de facto requirement for platinum. Most organisations that achieve platinum have set SBTIs. And also you need to demonstrate your plans for implementing reductions. So being able to highlight those initiatives and demonstrate concrete actions that you're taking real action, not just fake action, to actually reduce emissions, which that could be including things like investing in renewable energy, improving energy efficiency, and optimising your logistics or engaging with your supply chain. So there are lots of different initiatives out there that can not only help you to be greener, but also to help improve when it comes to the bottom line and increase profitability. So in addition to having robust GHG emissions management, you also need to have independent verification of your greenhouse gas emissions data. So this is a non-negotiable for platinum, and often for gold. So again, you're scored different points in the different questions within the scheme, but this is where you can score high. So significant points will be given for having your scopes 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions verified, and higher again for scope 3 categorised. But they have to be independently verified by a third-party accredited body, like Carbonology, for example. Obviously, I'm going to mention that. Not embarrassed about that at all. So Carbonology is CDP accredited. So yeah, you need to ensure that your accredited verification body meets the requirements of certain standards. So for example, ISO 14064 Part 3 could be a standard that they would verify your emissions against, and that the verification body is also accredited and compliant with the other verification standards for verification bodies such as ISO 14065 and ISO 17029. Next is to have some strong policies and actions across all themes. So that's including labour and human rights. So that's health and safety, diversity, human rights due diligence, for example. And then there's ethics. So having robust ethics policies, which could include anti-corruption measures and data privacy safeguards. So if you've got standards like ISO 27001 on information security, or standards, I think it's ISO 37000 on anti-bribery and corruption. Correct me if I'm wrong, sorry. But anti-bribery and corruption is another standard that you could potentially cherry-pick aspects of when it comes to ethics as well. And then finally, sustainable procurement. So again, looking at greening your supply chain. Another critical area is effective reporting and transparency. So you need to clearly articulate your policies, actions and performance data within the EcoVadis questionnaire. So this is including providing high quality relevant supporting documentation, so it's not just a tick box exercise. And finally, last but not least, one of my favourites is continuous improvement. So again, this isn't a one-off. This is something that is going to grow and improve as you get better at it, because in some organisations you may be doing this for the very first time, which could be quite scary and daunting. But don't worry, it does get easier as data becomes more accessible, engagement with supply chain becomes easier. It is achievable and the rewards can be significant. So my advice here is stick with it. It is a journey of continuous improvement. And don't lose hope, you will get there. So interestingly, talking about continuing improvement, the journey to platinum is cumulative. And EcoVadis awards points for the maturity of your sustainability management system. So interestingly, we've seen organisations that have improved significantly with EcoVadis, and they went from a silver to a gold, for example. But then interestingly, with this particular type of rating scheme, EcoVadis, you are benchmarked against other peers in your industry. What that means is that you may be a gold this year, but you could potentially go down to a silver if you're not continuing to improve. So that can be a bit of a shocker for some companies and a feeling of disappointment. But what that is demonstrating is that the standards are being raised across that sector. So from that point of view, it has a very positive impact overall, but it can be a little bit demoralising for some companies that aren't continuously improving and that may be downgraded. So just a word of warning there. So just a couple of tips in terms of the practicalities of getting the platinum rating with verified data. I think the key thing is to start early, get a team together and have a plan. The next tip would be to download the questionnaire, the methodology and the scoring criteria so you can see where you can score the highest points. You could potentially invest in some carbon accounting software if that's going to help to make your life easier for tracking and managing your data. And also, I think prioritising the greenhouse gas emissions verification. So typically what would be involved would be to complete a readiness review. You could also complete a gap analysis or a pre-verification audit just to check your readiness. And then you're actually ready for the verification audit itself. You obviously need to have formalised policies and procedures in place. And so I'd start to build up your portfolio of evidence as you go along on this journey. Another tip is obviously to address all 4 themes. So you might be really strong in one area, but you need to try and raise standards in the other areas as well. Okay, because that 1 weak score in one area could potentially pull down your overall ratings. If necessary, leverage external expertise. So there are some great consultants out there that provide support with EcoVadis. We have got some contact details for some if you would like that. Blackmores have completed EcoVadis projects and have consultants that can provide support there as well. And then finally, just on continuous improvement, use this as an opportunity to identify areas for improvement. Don't use it as a tick box exercise and have a plan moving forward, even after your initial submission. I think one final thing to mention is that just remember that the verification of your greenhouse gas data specifically demonstrates a significantly advanced level of transparency and diligence, which EcoVadis heavily rewards. So there are a number of pros and cons involved with voluntary greenhouse gas emission disclosures and broader ESG ratings like EcoVadis, but I went into a lot more detail on the pros and cons on the last podcast that I did, which was about getting an A rating for CDP. So that's another international rating scheme. So I'd recommend going back to that because I go into a bit more detail on the pros and cons, but very similar, I'd say, for EcoVadis and CDP. But ultimately, it's all about having a competitive advantage and enhancing your trust and reputation and improve your risk management. And then on a negative perspective, it can be resource intensive, so make sure that you've got the resources in place that you need and to get your head around the methodology. It's worth taking your time to do that. EcoVadis, they can provide support and guidance on that. So yeah, and definitely tap into that and make best use of it as well. So just to wrap up then, whilst the journey to achieving EcoVadis Platinum does require significant commitment and has strategic benefits, particularly in terms of market access and competitive advantage in today's supply chain driven economy, it's still incredibly compelling in terms of the benefits. So I think, again, something that I'd like to stress is it's not just about compliance. It's about building a credible, sustainable business that's resilient, responsible, and a preferred partner for many organisations. So if you're looking to elevate your EcoVadis score, remember these key takeaways. Have comprehensive data, robust management systems across all 4 themes, and critically independent verification of your greenhouse gas emissions. It is an investment, but it's one that does truly pay dividends in terms of trust, transparency, and trade. So that's all for this episode on the ISO show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. And if you have any questions at all about EcoVadis, CDP, greenhouse gas verification, or just simply raising your organisation standards, then please do feel free to reach out to me directly through the link in the show notes. Thanks once again. I look forward to speaking with you again on the next episode of the ISO show.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.